Hi, this is Chris, not to be confused with the Chris. Welcome to the Unofficial Adventures in Odyssey interview. Today, I've got with me Josh Beachy. Josh Beachy is an Odyssey fan and a film editor, so he's got some really interesting stuff to tell us today. First of all, before we get into your film editing and the relationship between that and your Odyssey fandom, how has Odyssey impacted your life the most?
So I think the way Odyssey has impacted my life the most is probably through the storytelling and kind of like the character arcs with it. Because me and my siblings have watched. I'm talking about the animated series and the audio drama series for a pretty long time, and I've always been like very fascinated by the way that they tell their story, do their storytellings, and kind of like how they develop the characters like naturally and very purely, kind of like that. So I think this I'm very passionate about like the storytelling aspect that Odyssey like does. Kind of like whether it be like the smallest detail to like something that actually has a great impact, like years and albums down on. I really like that.
Yes, they're great storytellers, and they've made some very, very believable and endearing characters. Did the Adventures in Odyssey animated films have an influence on your decision to become a film editor, or in general, your decision to work on films?
In some aspect, yeah. But even when it comes to like the animated series, growing up, I've always loved watching movies. I think I've always liked the idea of like people like telling stories because when you stop and think about it, there's storytelling everywhere where it comes from, whether it's like the radio, the TV, even stories that you tell like little mini stories that you tell to other people, like kind of like that. I've always loved storytelling and kind of like the idea of it and just like being able to use storytelling as a way to impact other people and kind of like change their perspective and change their minds and their lives in a way that God sees fit. I've always loved the idea of like being able to use stories and like kind of like to use stories and use film as a way to like impact other people to like change their minds, change their lives, and kind of like a call to action in some ways.
Ooh, I
I hope that
like
made
that.
sense.
It makes a lot of sense. It reminds me of the kids' radio program, Wooten's Broken Pencil Show. Like,
Oh
should
yeah.
our entertainment have a point? That
Oh
was,
yeah, I remember that.
yes. uh, I think his Captain Absolutely character, or one of his superhero characters, was trying to stop the villain from turning everything, quote unquote, around, turn the world around. Oh, it's already turning around. Oh, turn the world
I love that
around.
joke.
Well, no, well, the earth is round. Oh, no, the world, make everything round, pointless.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
funny. It's funny because like it's like in a way it's kind of like something that's completely pointless has a point. Kind
exactly.
yeah, I think now that actually it's funny that you bring that up because like it's actually kind of funny that you like that certain forms of entertainment should have a point. It's like sometimes in when I do film editing, there actually should be well, it's not just me in general. I think it's true for like other people that do work in film. Like every single thing that's shot has to have a purpose. It can't just be like something that's just shoved in there for no reason. There's like another rule that says like show don't tell. Just like you should show something. It has to have a point. There has to be a purpose. It just otherwise the pacing is going to be off. The story is going to make absolutely no sense.
Yes. And I like how Odyssey uses entertainment to make a point for God. And I think whether purposely or whether by accident. And I think there is some of both. A lot of secular entertainment has a point as well, but often, unfortunately, the opposite point.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for um, Focus on the Family, Adventures in Odyssey, Focus on the Family Radio Theater, Christian quote unquote entertainment that's really using the entertainment as a tool to make a point for God. You've talked about how Odyssey has impacted you, and that's really got a big relationship to your film making or your film editing. I mean, what are you the most passionate about when it comes to the show? Is it the same as the above, or is there anything more?
I think the way it has impacted my life, it kind of like helps me gain perspectives about things that I never really stopped to think about. Like, for example, I think I mentioned in my one interview that about the life expectancy episode, kind of like about why there's suffering in the world and why suffering has a purpose. And it kind of like goes back to like Jesus said that as a Christian, we will suffer, but the suffering will help us lead just like the way that God allowed Jesus to suffer, how suffering allows us to come back to God, something like that.
Yes. When Eugene gave Connie an answer about suffering and death, about how we'll suffer, but the suffering can lead us back to God, in the same way that Jesus' suffering led us all back to God, or led us all to God. You said that was an interesting point that you hadn't thought about. And I think it's very good. I think it's excellent. God came in the flesh. He suffered as Jesus Christ to bring us to himself. And the suffering that we go through in life also draws us closer to him. The suffering that he went through made a way for us to come to him because he suffered in our place for our sins. But then the suffering we go through in life helps us be drawn closer to him, kind of like another Odyssey episode. Remember, Thank You, God, where Whit told Connie and Rodney, not Rodney Rathbone, an earlier Rodney and Mr. and Mrs. Riley, the story. And, Mrs. Kendall was there. The story about how his stepmother had lost her sight after his own mother had lost her life. And so Whit had been through so much, and his stepmother said, Lord, I thank thee 1,000 times for the roses. Help me to thank thee for the thorns as well, because the thorns remind us of how beautiful the roses are.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that episode.
She said it was an old Scottish prayer that she had learned, and Whit had a lot of trouble grasping hold of that as a child. As far as film editing, what made you choose that particular role in film? Or was it just you wanted to work in film and that was the particular role that worked out for you?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because I kind of have a story to say about that one. When I was in 8th grade, I actually got like a digital camera for Christmas, and I really wanted to try it out. And I thought like, oh, like I'm gonna try this with my Legos because I actually did stop motion animation with Legos growing up, and I had so much fun with that. I was made like these silly movies for YouTube and all that stuff. And I think I wanted to do something like that, but then when I got to college, I was like, I still wanted to do something like that, but I didn't know like exactly where I was supposed to go. Then someone at my church actually offered me an internship with this company, and as I did some of the work for him, I was like, "Oh, this is kind of something I want to do." So it was like I didn't know what it was at first, but then the gear started turning when I got the internship. I'm actually still working at that company.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a real blessing to still be working at the company where you interned in college.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Did the one who took you on as an intern know that you'd been into Adventures in Odyssey, animated films, and into making your own stop motion animation? What did he know about your background?
The funny thing is, my brother actually worked for him at first, and we actually go to the same church. So when my brother was working for him, I guess my brother must have mentioned the stop motion animation things to the guy. So he's like, "Hey, I noticed you really like to make videos with your stop motion. Like, would you be interested in kind of like doing work for me?" He's like, sure.
That's cool. Did you ever do any Odyssey themed stop motion? I'm just curious about that.
Sorry, no. It was more like I didn't do anything stop motion like with Odyssey, but I did do like Lego music videos, I would say. I did a one with like Toby Mac and
Oh, cool.
what Andy Mineo. Do you know who Andy Mineo is?
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I actually did like a video. Like I think my most popular one was the Lego stop motion to his song Tonight, and I think he actually saw it. Toby
Oh,
Mac saw
wow.
the video and he posted it on his Twitter, and Andy Mineo saw the video that I did and he posted it on his Facebook, and I was like, "What? This is crazy."
Aha. That's neat. That's neat. So, Are there any times when you're working on film editing that it just really harkens back to a particular, maybe something you noticed and learned from what you saw in the animated videos from Adventures in Odyssey?
And I think it's a way, like, another thing is about the pacing. I know, like, when it comes to the video and, well, like, the animated series and the audio series, the pacing is pretty much the same as there. And when it comes to me working with it, we have to focus on the pacing and make sure that's, like, consistent.
Okay, that's great,
And
great. Now, is there a particular Adventures in Odyssey video that stands out to you? Not even necessarily in relation to your own work, but just one that you really like or has impacted you.
probably the episode Star Quest, because that was the first one I remember watching. I was actually introduced to the animated series first and then the audio series.
Oh,
And I think
wow.
this, yeah, Star Quest was probably the first one I remember watching, and I think I just remember really liking it. The more was basically about like don't let jealousy take over your life, and I mean I don't have a problem. I don't have
Yes, well, it was the first one that you saw, and it was the introduction to the series, so naturally, it would have an impact, and it would be probably one of your favorites. And
yeah I think
I
like
think there are some good humorous references and allusions in that one, also.
yeah it was since I was like really young and remember watching. I think that's kind of like what clicked on me. It's like oh I really like this. Like I kind of want to like kind of like grow up and explore like kind of like the performing arts scene. Like because I also really like to act. I also like to do voice acting and stuff like that. I actually have like the funny thing is there's certain episodes of Odyssey, even in the audio series, that I actually have memorized, like lines from it. Like certain episodes, I actually know by memory.
Ah, yes, yes. You listen to them enough times, and that starts happening, whether on purpose or not.
Yeah, something
Yes.
like that.
Huh. Yes, sometimes I just like to um, throw in some lines and maybe even some voices. I know it's kind of quirky, but have I ever claimed to be normal? So I may just throw in a line that I remember from Yes,
Private
Harlow
eye.
Doyle, Private Eye.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something like that. Like Harlow Doyle, private eye.
yeah, yeah, mm, yeah.
I guess in that way, that's what how it's like impact like kind of like impacted my life. Kind of like since I've listened to a lot of Odyssey and other things like so many times, it's like kind of like ingrained in my mind that it even actually gave me the confidence to actually try out like high school drama because like
Oh,
I said,
right.
I have an uncanny talent to like memorize lines, not even my own lines, but other people's lines to a point where it's like, Josh, that's kind of annoying.
Well, it's good that Odyssey inspired you to try. It reminds me of the episode where Liz was trying out for the school talent show, and she didn't feel like she was good at things, but Wooten encouraged her. She said she didn't feel like she was good at anything, and Wooten said, "God gives us talents. That's sort of his job." And it sounds like you really found your talents. It sounds like you've really done a lot with them, which is very important. Like Jesus said, you don't just bury your talent or you'll lose it. So, as far as voice acting, that's really cool that Odyssey inspired you in that way as well.
Voice acting was probably like a well, like I've never actually done voice acting before, but I've always been like I want to try that. I just never had the confidence to like go out there and like risk something like buy this microphone right here, buy a
Uh-huh.
computer to kind of like store your files. But I think yeah, it's like inspired me to like kind of like expand like voice acting as like a hobby, but eventually something more.
Yeah. Well, trying something out as a hobby is a good way to see if you'll enjoy it enough to make it something more. I think.
Yeah.
I think this has really been great. But before we wrap this all up, I want to know what's something that you would really like to tell Odyssey fans who maybe they've been fans for a long time, and there's a lot of mixed feelings right now about where the show is going. The Odyssey audio episodes going to strictly the club and the internet for the new installments after album 80, but then also for the general public, the start of a new animated series. What are your thoughts?
I don't know what God's plan is when it comes to the direction of the show, but I think one thing I will say is like whether you agree or disagree with like how the show is being handled or stuff like that, just as so long as the main core of Odyssey, like its whole purpose and its whole thing, like remains unchanged and it's used to glorify God in ways that impacts other people. Yeah, like it shouldn't matter because like the principles and the values of Odyssey remains the same. You may agree or not agree with like how the show is being handled, but as long as the main course and principles of Odyssey remain the same, then it should be fine.
I like that. I like that. Some people are excited about the new animated series. Some people are concerned about differences in opinion about the artistry of the new animated. I like the artistry. I think it serves well to cater to a broader age range than the traditional animated ones were aimed at. And I think there's a lot of good to come still out of the series. And I like how you said, as long as the main point is the same, that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah, because like if you change like even one thing, like one value point, it could like pretty much change an entire show forever. So like I said, like as long as it stays consistent and stays to the central focus of God, then I think it's fine.
Yes, yes. I look forward to hearing the new episodes on the club, especially since within the next year or two, I'm planning to get married, and my wife to be has a
Nice.
son that she and her previous husband, her late husband, were raising together. He's just going to be 5 when the new animated adventure is going to be released, and he's a very visual person. He likes to watch Spider-Man videos and Paw Patrol videos on his mother's phone. She limits his screen time, but Odyssey going into a new era as far as animation, I know there are millions of fans, and I would say just for my family to be, I don't think this could have happened at a better time. I can only speak for us in particular.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I know like when it comes to artistry, like it kind of evolves over time.
It
Like
does.
I'm sure like the animation or the well not animation, the artwork from let's say 5 years ago was probably like, oh, why did they change the artwork from like that? Like it art change pretty much changes over time. And there's nothing wrong with that, like trying to like update the artwork to like match today's like artistry world. Like I said, just remain consistent and the central focus points to God.
Yes, yes. I remember for the Lloyd Squires, known as the King's Clown. He's been a kids minister for decades, and when I was watching online a video training for those who want to be involved in kids ministry or who are involved, maybe one thing he said is, you've got to make sure, regardless of your quote unquote reason, as in what first comes to mind when people say, why do you want to do this? Kind of on the surface, there may be different reasons, but the motive has to be bringing them to God, not even for the sake of somebody else, like reaching kids for the sake of their parents, but just bringing the specific ones that you're reaching out to God. Focusing on your motive helps avoid burnout, and it helps make sure you don't fall. It is something that you've got to ask God, show me my motives and bring them in line with yours.
When you figure out what God's purpose for you in life, you kind of like fight for that. A reason that you do what you do, God's purpose, God's plan, God's direction, kind of like helps you drive to like what help fulfill his purpose for you in life.
Yes, yes. Well, it has been great having you here. I'm really glad and thankful to God and you that you could come and that you chose to. I really appreciate this. So, those of you who are watching, come back next time. We'll try to do about one of these per month at least. And thanks for tuning in online to the Unofficial Adventures in Odyssey interview.